Just weeks before Russia began its assault on Ukraine, President Putin was in Beijing and met his Chinese counterpart, President Xi Jinping. They signed a joint statement announcing there were no limits to the friendship between Russia and China. 20 days later, and Moscow began a new war in Europe. Many Western countries hit out at Russia and backed Ukraine. China gave a more cautious response.
You're using a typical Western media questioning method of using the word invasion. China is closely monitoring the latest situation. We call on all sides to exercise restraint to prevent the situation from getting out of control.
Days after the invasion, China abstained from voting on a UN Security Council resolution condemning Russia's attack. Beijing has looked to remain neutral on the conflict, calling for peace. They've also criticized efforts from the West to strangle Russia's economy with sanctions. Instead, China has been snapping up discounted Russian oil, and trade between the two hit a record high of $190 billion last year. Beijing continues to tread a diplomatic tightrope. Its close economic and military ties with Moscow have seen China refuse to outrightly criticize the invasion. But it stops short of showing support for it as it tries to balance other relationships with the US and Europe. With the war in Ukraine hitting the one-year mark, Kyiv is being bolstered by military support from the US and some European nations. Officials in Washington believe that this might force a change of strategy from Beijing.
We've been watching this very, very closely, and for the most part, China has been engaged in providing rhetorical, political, diplomatic support to Russia, but we have information that gives us concern that they are considering providing lethal support to Russia in the war against Ukraine.
China has denied these claims, accusing the US of finger-pointing.
The Ukraine issue has complex historical backgrounds. China takes a just and objective position on this issue, and we have been committed to promoting peace talks. We stand on the side of peace and dialogue. That is the right side of history.
Beijing continues to call for a peaceful resolution in Ukraine, but as one of Russia's closest allies, China could find it increasingly tricky to stay on the sidelines. Adam Hancock, TRT World, Singapore.